morning for your goodness to us and giving us the health and strength of coming into this meeting today. And we ask, O God, that you would presence yourself with us as we deliberate over matters concerning the finances of the council. And we would ask, O God, that you would lead us and guide us in all that we do. And we give thanks to you for your goodness to us, and your provision for us, and the provision of the Comhairle itself. We bless you, O Lord, for the work that has been carried out by all the staff to attain where we are today. And we'd ask that you would bless the convener here and the leader and those in charge of the committees. We ask that you would bless them. Be with the Chief Executive as he comes to the end of his tenure here. And we ask that you would be with the new Chief Executive as well, that you would bless him and his work that he is to carry out as he comes to us as a Comhairle. That you would be with us all and all our families. We commit to your care and keeping, and we especially remember those that are sorrowing the loss of loved ones over these past days and weeks. We are no stranger to the fact that we are but creatures of time for a little while, and we must enter the eternal world. O Lord, prepare us, then all of us, to come to that one name given under heaven amongst men by which we can be saved, and that is Jesus Christ, our Saviour. Bless us all and all our families. We commit to you. We ask all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Councillor MacLean. Right. So the meeting is now being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the Comhairle's website following the meeting. And before we begin, I'd just like to welcome the new Chief Executive, Mr. Martin Joyce. Welcome, Martin. And I don't know what the term is, whether you hope you enjoy this. We'll see how you get on. So thanks for coming. As far as the interests of the committee are concerned, the budget item is made up of two parts, items 2A to 2B, which will be taken in the sequence as they appear on the agenda and are detailed in the budget book, which has been shared on SharePoint. The Chief Executive and the Chief Financial Officer will introduce these financial items. It is necessary to consider these together. Therefore, I would propose that the committee consider each report in turn and then come back to the recommendations at item 2A, which is the Budget and Council Tax 2026-27 report. So we'll start with item 1, which is a declaration of interest, and our members are asked to declare any interest that they have in any item on the agenda. It would be helpful if members express why they are declaring an interest in the item concerned. Does anybody have any interests? No. Okie dokie, that's great. So we'll move on to item 2, finance. And this is the budget and 2A, and this is the budget and council tax setting 26-27. This report is at section A of the budget folder and details of the budget and council tax setting for 2026-2027 and a forward strategy. I will ask the Chief Executive and the Chief Financial Officer to introduce the report. Thanks, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. And as ever, I will give a slightly longer presentation at this Service Committee than at all the other Service Committees this morning, but I would repeat myself at every meeting. This report will be considered in all its detail at Policy and Resources Committee this afternoon, and you are, as are all service committees, considering the report for the interests of your committee. The purpose of the report is, of course, to seek approval of the Comhairle's budget and to recommend the level of council tax later in the day. First of all, it's important that I say this report presents to you a balanced budget. It presents to you a lawful budget. It presents to you recommendations which have been developed through detailed discussion at the Budget and Strategy Board and at the Budget Seminar, the recommendations of which have been approved by Policy and Resources Committee and the Comhairle for preparation of this budget. So it does not come out of officers' wishes, it does not come out of the corporate management team, it comes from the process in which officers and members have been fully involved. 2.2 onwards sets out the details of the settlement. We will come to that in greater detail, I think, at Policy and Resources Committee this afternoon. I'm obliged to bring to your attention at 2.4 the very poor capital funding settlement. Once again, thankfully, we have other means of spending on the capital front, but these are largely through separate funds, bid funds, or funds which government have approved. These will be enhanced in later years, but our own capital programme level is once again very, very low. 2.5 notes that the Budget and Strategy Board reviewed a range of savings proposals. These are set out in the report. Some of them have been taken forward. Most of them were not, because they were simply unpalatable, can I say that, to levels of service delivery, or they would have put our performance of statutory duties in peril. So anything that was amber or red on the list you previously saw will not have been taken forward. And that shows the position that the Comhairle is in, and the position that most councils in Scotland are in, that most savings are now identified savings cannot in fact be taken for reasons of acceptable levels of service and reasons of statutory duties. Thankfully, however, we have reserves. Details of those are set out in the report. My strong advice to you all at this meeting and at the meetings this afternoon will be that while we are in an era of still one-year budgets, we're not in an era of multi-year budgets. We have to, though, act as though we are, and looking at the projections set out in government spending review, which shows the local government share of the cake falling over the next 2 to 3 years, it would be imprudent in the extreme not to prepare for that and to support the level of reserves. That is not putting money aside to put it in the bank and look at it. It is giving you choices for services which you will want to support in future years, but without the means of doing so, that just remains wishful thinking. So this proposal, this budget, although it is of course for 1 year, tries to look ahead to 2027, 28 and 2028, 29. That is about as far as we can go. There are particular savings set out for the services for which this committee is responsible. I gather there is a minor adjustment to be made. I think there may have been a double counting of a small amount of savings. The Chief Officer will speak to that, but that is something which we hope can be dealt with within the annual budget without requiring any adjustment of the recommendations. The Chief Officer will speak to that in a moment. So the recommendations are there, Chair. I won't go through them all for obvious reasons, but they are there for this committee's interests, and you're invited to approve them for those interests. Mr. Gomez may wish to add to that, and both of us are happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Nothing too much to add, really. Just around the settlement itself. Following the announcement on the 13th of January, there has been an announcement by the Scottish Government for an additional £20 million for real living wage increases. Some of that will relate to this committee. Once the details of allocation of that additional 20 million are known, we'll report back so that the figures are known as to what the effects are for children's services in particular. As the Chief Executive said, there are issues around the settlement. Whilst on the face of it, it does look like there's an increase in funding. A lot of this is already directed to specific priorities, and it's not the free funding that was perhaps announced by the Scottish Government itself. So yes, I agree with the points on reserves. We do need these, given the government spending review figures, which don't look great for local government as a whole. But yes, happy to take any other questions on the report.
Okay, thanks both. I'll just quickly bring in the Chief Officer regarding that little adjustment, just so you're aware of what that actually is.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in reviewing the documentation for the budget, we identified that there was a slight miscalculation and error in something that was included in Appendix B as listed in the options for savings. This relates to an allocation of a saving of £34,000 within the sport and health budget. The reason that this was inadvertently included is that it relates actually to a report that came to the last sitting of this committee, where the committee agreed to significant increases in Sláinte membership and pay-as-you-go fees for the use of sports facilities. That was initially included in here as a potential for further income generation and onward saving, but actually that has to relate to savings that have to be made in the 25-26 year to ensure there's a balanced budget going forward. That was funded, as members will be aware, from Crown Estates previously, and the report that went to the last series included proposals to increase these charges to ensure that there was no impact on service delivery, no closure of rural pools or reduction in hours for pool opening times and so on. So that has already been factored in, and therefore it would be a double count to leave it in this budget. But I wish to reassure members that we will be able to identify alternative sources for that £34,000 saving and wish to leave it in the budget proposals, and we would propose that we take a report back to the Service Committee at a future sitting detailing the approach to achieving that £34,000 in alternative to what was proposed in the appendix.
Okay, thanks, Don. Thanks. So, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Councillor Norrie. Donald.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chief Officer. The £34,000 that was identified as was a double counted, or however it was, we're not going to pass that on to the Sláinte increases. We're going to find alternative methods so that we don't have to impact the customer base of Sláinte, and it won't have any effect on the proposals to keep the rural schools open and the opening hours of the pools. We are going to find alternatives to this, are we?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor MacDonald. We're intending that we can identify that saving from other aspects of the overall departmental budget and not impact on what was just recently agreed at the last sitting of this committee. So it would not impact on that. We will take the finer details of that to a future sitting of the committee, but it'll be managed through a further review of internal department budgets that won't impact on the frontline service delivery in sport and health.
Thanks for that.
Cheers, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions? Councillor McLean.
Yes, Chair. Just one or two questions on the draft budget book in particular. Can I just ask for clarification on one or two things? First of all, as relates to education, I think it's on page 16 and my onwards. It's to do with the term agency and contract services. I got that in here at 16. I don't know what it's in the written, but it's in the. I see that comes up in all committees, but I'm just referring to education to do with especially strategy and support. Agency and contract services, 2.7 million, 3.6 last year, 4 million the next year, and so on. And I see that recurring in all. Can you give me an explanation of what is agency and contract services?
Who wants to? Oh, Sandy, sorry, yeah.
Well, just to say, and the Chief Officer will have perhaps more information, but the agency and contract services are where we are paying for additional services out with the council. So where we are paying for commission services.
Some in relation to that, if my mathematics or my arithmetic is correct, I would say for education that would add up to quick 14 million. Am I right? Have I read it right or wrong? This seems an extravagantly huge sum of money to be paying into a service for agency and contract services. And really, we would need to know, I would say, that when you're coming to cuts, you're coming to figures such as I'm taking one or two, just a couple of them here. And it's in all, I noticed that it's in all services, I think, agency, but particularly when it relates to education. So we could do with a breakdown.
Okay, I'll just let Don come in. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And in relation to Councillor McLean's questions, Mr. Gomez has partly answered that already, but I think they seem larger sitting within education and children's services, because it's my understanding that the facilities management contract for the FES schools sits under that title, for instance. So there are kind of large costs that service our school estate sitting within that may seem to inflate these numbers. But if Councillor McLean wishes for a breakdown of these services, I'm sure we could try to provide that.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to look, because I can see contract services, but it's the agency part that I'm very concerned about. If we're paying out a lot of money for agencies to come into our schools, which we could do ourselves, I'm not saying that we could, but that's the second one is relating to Gaelic. And on again, I've got it, Gaelic and cultural. It's on page 21 in my. It's Gaelic and cultural services. We get income of 1.082 million. I take it that's from central government. Is that correct?
Yeah, Councillor McLean, that relates to the payment annually of Gaelic specific grant, which the council applies for and has done on an annual basis since that statutory instrument was introduced. So that's funding that the council receives through application annually to fund various aspects of Gaelic medium education delivery.
We pay out 1.8 million every year for employee expenses. That's not teachers. Am I right?
It will in part be teaching staff, Councillor McLean.
What part?
I would have to have a more detailed breakdown of that, but it includes teaching staff who are funded through Gaelic specific grant. It includes employees within the multimedia unit. It includes Gaelic support staff. It includes Gaelic language assistants that are allocated to schools. So there's a mixture of staff in that overall pot.
The reason I'm saying that is that over the years, and being an ex-teacher myself, it was always the gripe of teachers, as you know, Mr. MacLeod, that teachers do not get as much of this income from the Gaelic stream, Gaelic support grant, as they should. And I agree with them, because it begins in schools, and that is where the foundation of our Gaelic is to be. And therefore, to have employee expenses of 1.8 million doesn't ring very good to me personally.
I'll just respond, Chair, there. The amount of Gaelic specific grant that the Comhairle receives has been relatively fixed over the duration of that scheme. There has been, I think it was actually the year before last, a small increase in it, in the region of about 50,000. But in the landscape around that, salaries for teachers particularly, but across the workforce, have considerably increased, which means that income is going less far every year. But there are a significant number of teachers. I think off the top of my head, I would have to double check, and I can respond to Councillor McLean in more detail. But I think the Gaelic specific grant funds about 12 teaching staff directly and in full. So without that income going into the from Gaelic specific grant into the teaching workforce, that would be roughly about 12 FTE teachers less. That's an estimated figure. I can get back to you with the exact figure that the number of teachers that Gaelic specific grant funds. But we do invest heavily in Gaelic medium education. It's one of the strengths of our service, and the resources that we draw down from government and supplement from the Comhairle go to that frontline delivery. It should be noted as well that the Gaelic specific grant is paid at a rate, I think, of 75%. So the Comhairle tops up that amount to give the full amount of the funding.
Yeah, just to finish.
Yeah, quickly.
That I'm sorry for taking
no,
time.
no, don't worry.
But to just say that sometimes people
no, they're justifiable questions.
Yes, is that there are bodies within the Gaelic community, and some of us would say there are too many, and some would say that it's time that these bodies came together, and they would be much more efficient, both in finances and in what they're producing, if these bodies would come together. That's just a
Okay, thanks, Tom. Is there anybody else who wants to ask any questions? Can I see any lights? Going. Councillor.
Thanks, Chair. Just touching on what Councillor McLean said there. I think it has been mounted last year and this year that there should maybe be we should be having a look at FES. I don't think we call that anymore. But when you're doing a breakdown anyway of the agency and contract services, I think it's worth investigating exactly what we're paying for there. I think since it's going to be done anyway, can we get some?
I'm aware, Chair, that has been discussed in both this budget setting process and in previous ones. But when that has been investigated, there are legal agreements with the facilities management company that either have to be honoured or we would have to enter into renegotiation with in the interest of trying to achieve savings. And there are risks associated with that could result in such renegotiations actually working against the financial position of the Comhairle. So it is something that members wish to that could be looked at. But at the moment, the view and the feedback that we're receiving is that the life cycle contract associated with the school estates is delivering value for money and maintaining our Scoiltú school estate in very good condition, in condition now 12 to 15 years in, as good as when they opened.
Thanks, Don. I totally appreciate that. We're probably in the middle of a contract with them at the moment, but it's really just to prepare ourselves for when that contract is going to be getting renegotiated. That's all I was thinking about. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McCauley. Right, so if there are no more questions, we'll move on to item 2B, which is the draft budget book 2026-27. This report is at section B of the budget folder and details the draft budget book 2026-27. Insofar as this committee is concerned, please refer to the Education, Skills and Children's Services plans at pages 15 to 24. Okay, I don't think there's anything more to be said about that. So, having considered these items, can we go back to the main report at item 2A? To conclude the budget items and for the purpose of recording the minute with reference to items 2A, 2B, can I now confirm, insofar as the committee's interests are concerned, approval of the recommendations in the Budget and Council's Tax Setting 2026-27 report? Agreed? Okay, right, thanks. And the next scheduled meeting of the committee will be on the 24th of March 2026. Thanks for your attendance.